The city of Zilara shimmered under the light of two suns. Towering spires floated above the ground and streets pulsed with energy. Alien citizens moved with precision, their bodies covered in scales, feathers, or smooth iridescent skin. At the heart of this city stood the royal palace, a massive structure of crystal and metal glowing with power. It was a place of awe for anyone who visited, and it was here that Captain Elias Trent, the human envoy, had been sent. Elias was nothing like the alien delegates around him. Humans were new to the galactic scene. While most species saw them as fragile and inexperienced, Elias had proven himself during the diplomatic talks and exploratory missions. He was calm under pressure, quick-thinking and brave, though he looked small compared to the towering Zilari guards. Today, Elias walked with cautious respect through the palace halls. He was heading to meet Queen Lysera herself, the ruler of the Zilari. She was said to be wise, intelligent, and graceful, but also extremely protected. Humans rarely got a chance to speak with her directly. Elias felt a mix of pride and nervousness. The doors to the throne room opened silently, revealing a vast chamber bathed in soft blue light. The floor was smooth crystal, reflecting the elegant patterns above. Around the room, the Queen's guards stood tall and imposing, each with energy weapons at their sides. At the far end, Queen Lysera sat upon her throne, her posture calm and commanding. Her large, luminous eyes watched Elias carefully as he approached. "Captain Trent," the Queen said, her voice melodic and firm. "You are far from your homeworld. I hope your journey was safe." Elias bowed slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty. Thank you. It is an honor to meet you." The Queen inclined her head, and Elias felt a mixture of relief and pride. For a human to speak in the presence of Zilari royalty without fear was rare. He took a few steps closer, careful not to make any sudden movements. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the palace. Red lights flashed along the walls, and the hum of energy weapons filled the room. The Zilari guards shifted uncomfortably, and the Queen's serene expression changed to one of concern. "What is happening?" Elias asked, instinctively scanning the room. Before anyone could answer, the palace doors burst open. A group of armed rebels, clad in dark armor and moving with deadly precision, stormed inside. Their weapons pulsed with energy as they advanced. The guards were caught off guard. A moment later, something even more shocking happened. Many of the guards turned and fled, abandoning their posts. Elias froze. He had expected danger in negotiations, but not betrayal from the very people tasked to protect the Queen. Panic surged through the room as the rebels closed in. "Your Majesty," Elias shouted. Without thinking, he stepped between the Queen and the attackers. He grabbed a crystal vase from the floor and swung it like a club, hitting one of the intruders. The alien staggered but did not fall. Elias's heart pounded, but he did not retreat. The Queen's eyes widened, not in fear but in recognition of his courage. "Captain Trent." "Why are you—" "No time," Elias snapped, dodging another attack. "Move back, Your Majesty." Using his quick reflexes, Elias ducked and rolled, kicking a loose pillar to topple over a small group of rebels. His human instincts, honed by years of unpredictability and improvisation, gave him an advantage that the aliens did not anticipate. While the guards relied on strict rules and formation, Elias fought like a flowing storm, unbound by convention. The Queen watched carefully, her hands gripping the arms of her throne. "Impressive," she murmured, a hint of admiration in her voice. One rebel broke through the last line of fleeing guards and lunged at the Queen. Elias reacted without thinking. He grabbed a nearby ceremonial staff and struck the attacker across the chest, sending him sprawling backward. Then he reached for the Queen's arm. "Come with me," he said. The Queen rose gracefully, showing no hesitation. "I trust you, human," she said simply. Her calm acceptance stunned Elias for a brief moment, but there was no time to dwell on it. He led her through the nearest corridor, moving fast and carefully. As they ran, alarms echoed and the sounds of combat filled the palace. Elias glanced over his shoulder. The rebels were relentless, but their focus seemed to falter when faced with his unorthodox methods. He dodged energy blasts, slid under a closing security gate, and even used the palace's own moving platforms as barriers. Each human improvisation slowed their pursuers. They reached a wide observation deck overlooking the city. From here, Elias could see the chaos below. Some of the city's defenders were rallying, but others had fled in confusion. Flying transport ships streaked across the sky, some exploding under enemy fire. Elias turned to the Queen. "We need to find a secure location, somewhere the rebels can't reach easily." The Queen nodded. "Follow me," she said, leading him to a hidden door at the side of the deck. She pressed a small panel and the door slid open silently. Inside was a narrow corridor, lined with glowing panels and strange machinery. As they moved deeper, the Queen spoke. "You humans are remarkable. I have heard tales, but I did not expect such courage." Elias smiled faintly, catching his breath. "We survive by thinking differently. We adapt quickly. That's what keeps us alive." A sudden vibration ran through the corridor. Elias crouched instinctively, signaling the Queen to do the same. The rebels were not far behind. A group of them appeared at the end of the hallway, scanning for targets. Elias noticed an emergency hatch above them. He grabbed the Queen's hand. "Up there," he whispered. With a strong push, he helped her climb through the hatch. He followed immediately, just as the rebels rushed past the lower corridor. They emerged into a narrow ventilation shaft. The space was tight, but it provided cover. Elias moved carefully, leading the Queen through twists and turns. Every now and then, he peeked through the grates to see the rebels searching below. None of them suspected that the human was ahead, protecting the Queen with every step. Finally, they reached a secure chamber, hidden deep within the palace. The walls pulsed with alien energy, and the doors were reinforced with multiple layers of shielding. Elias set the Queen down gently. "You're safe here for now," he said. The Queen studied him for a moment. "I owe you my life, Captain Trent. Most would have fled. Most would have left me. I'm not most humans," he replied. His voice was steady, but inside his heart was still racing. He knew this was only the beginning. The betrayal of the palace guards was more than a simple rebellion. It was a calculated attack. Someone in power wanted the Queen gone, and if he failed, the consequences would ripple across the galaxy. Outside the chamber, the sounds of chaos continued. Elias pressed his back against the door, listening carefully. Every footstep, every hum of energy, every faint voice of a rebel gave him information. He began formulating a plan. Improvisation would only take him so far. To survive and protect the Queen, he would need to outthink the attackers entirely. The Queen approached him. "Captain, I must know, why do you risk so much for me?" Elias looked at her. "Because someone has to. And because you are not just a ruler, you are a symbol. If you fall, my species might never be trusted in this galaxy. If you survive, we both survive." The Queen nodded, her eyes shining. "Then we fight together." Elias allowed himself a small, tired smile. Together. As they prepared for the next move, Elias knew one thing with certainty. When the guards bolted, he stayed. The hidden chamber was quiet, but not for long. Outside, the palace erupted in chaos. Alarms rang, flashes of energy cut through the hallways, and the shouts of rebels echoed in the distance. Inside, the Queen's chamber hummed with a soft, calming light, a stark contrast to the chaos beyond its walls. Elias Trent leaned against the reinforced door, catching his breath. His body ached from the fight, but his mind raced. The rebels had been organized, precise, and deadly. He could not underestimate them. If he wanted to protect Queen Lysera, he had to think faster, smarter, and use every advantage, even those the Zellari did not consider. "Captain Trent," the Queen said, her voice calm yet filled with concern. "How long do you think we can hold them off?" Elias glanced at the crystalline walls, observing their structure. "I don't know, but we don't have to hold them off conventionally." "I have some ideas." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "Ideas?" He smiled faintly. "Human ideas. Sometimes we survive by using what others overlook." Her curiosity piqued. The Queen followed his gaze. "Show me then." Elias moved quickly to a control panel embedded in the wall. He examined the alien symbols and panels, trying to understand their functions. Human intuition often made sense of technology that seemed alien at first glance. He pressed a few buttons, observing how the systems reacted. A section of the floor rose, revealing hidden energy conduits and a network of movable platforms. "This," Elias said, pointing to the platforms, "can slow them down. And if we can manipulate the energy flows, we can create traps or barriers they won't expect." The Queen studied the setup. "Interesting. You are daring, but also clever," he shrugged. "We humans don't have armor like yours. We survive with our minds, not just our bodies." Suddenly, a distant explosion shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling and the soft hum of energy systems fluctuated. The rebels were moving through the palace quickly, cutting off routes as they went. Elias realized they couldn't stay hidden forever. "We need to move," he said, "or we can set a trap for them." The Queen nodded. "A trap, then. Show me what to do." Elias led her to the edge of the chamber. He began instructing her on the operation of the alien systems, translating complicated gestures and symbols into simple commands. The Queen learned quickly, impressed by his ability to simplify complex technology. Together they rerouted energy flows, creating barriers and channels that could delay the intruders. Elias used the platforms above the main corridors to his advantage. He positioned them so that rebels moving down the hall would trigger them to collapse, causing temporary chaos. Each move was calculated to exploit the enemy's assumptions. Aliens, he knew, were trained to rely on strength, numbers, and discipline. Humans relied on unpredictability, improvisation, and rapid thinking. Minutes passed and the rebels approached. The first group entered the corridor below. Elias pressed a concealed button. The floor platform shuddered and fell in a controlled collapse. A rebel screamed as he tumbled, disrupting the formation behind him. Elias moved quickly, blocking another attacker's energy blast with a shifted barrier. The Queen observed, her hands steady as she followed his instructions. "Your methods are unusual," she said, "but they are effective." Elias nodded. Effectiveness is what matters. Survival. A second wave of rebels entered the corridor, more determined than the first. Elias signaled for the Queen to move back to a control station. He stepped forward, creating distractions, pushing rebels into traps he had prepared earlier. His movements were unpredictable, almost chaotic, but precise enough to avoid serious injury. Every human instinct, the ability to improvise, adapt, and think outside the box, was on full display. The Queen could not help but feel a growing admiration for him. He was small, unarmed by alien standards, yet he moved with courage and intelligence that even seasoned Zalari soldiers would struggle to match. She began to understand why humans were becoming a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. As the rebels regrouped, Elias noticed something unusual. One of their leaders was using advanced scanning devices to bypass his traps. The humans' improvisation alone would not be enough. He needed a new plan, fast. "Your Majesty," Elias said, "we need to lure them into the main energy chamber. It's the heart of the palace. There. We can control the environment completely, and I have a human trick that might give us an edge." The Queen tilted her head. "Explain." Elias smiled faintly. "We make them think they have the advantage. We let them believe they are winning, then we turn everything against them." The Queen considered this. "Risky," Elias nodded, "but calculated risk. That's how humans survive." They moved through a series of hidden corridors, avoiding patrolling rebels. The Queen's knowledge of the palace layout helped, but it was Elias's improvisation that kept them safe. He created small diversions like opening a side hatch to drop a glowing object that distracted the attackers, and using mirrored panels to reflect light and disorient them. When they reached the main energy chamber, Elias quickly assessed the surroundings. The room was massive, with floating energy conduits and glowing platforms suspended above a pit of raw power. He began adjusting the energy flows, creating invisible barriers, and setting pressure-sensitive traps that would activate when rebels entered. "This is it," he said. "This is where we turn the tide." The Queen stood beside him, watching his movements with fascination. "You manipulate this energy as if it were your own weapon." "Something like that," Elias replied. "I don't have a weapon like yours, but I have this. Creativity and speed. That's enough to level the field." Outside, the rebels approached. Their confidence was high. They believed the human was alone and the Queen vulnerable. As they entered the chamber, Elias triggered the first trap. Energy barriers rose, cutting off their advance. Floating platforms shifted, causing rebels to stumble and fall. Chaos erupted among the attackers. Their formation broke down, leaving them vulnerable. Elias moved through the room with calculated speed, using every trick he could think of. One rebel charged at the Queen, but Elias intercepted, using a combination of a leverage throw and a sudden push from a shifting platform to send him crashing into an energy barrier. The Queen's eyes widened. "Impressive," she said softly. Elias ducked under a swinging energy conduit, then quickly pushed a control panel that released a surge of harmless but disorienting energy. stunning a group of rebels. Each move was unpredictable, dangerous, and effective. Human unpredictability was proving more powerful than the aliens' superior technology. But then, a new problem emerged. A group of heavily armored rebels appeared, bypassing the initial traps. Elias realized these were the leaders, more intelligent and trained to anticipate unconventional tactics. He had to act fast. "Your Majesty, stand back," he shouted. He grabbed a long energy rod from the chamber and swung it, creating a temporary shockwave that staggered the leaders. Using their confusion, he lured them into a narrow section of the chamber, where a pressure-triggered trap immobilized them briefly. The Queen watched silently, her respect growing with every move he made. "You are unlike any being I have ever encountered," she said. Elias paused for a moment. "We humans survive by thinking differently. That's our greatest strength." As the remaining rebels scrambled to regain control, Elias and the Queen prepared for the next phase. The human envoy was proving that intelligence, bravery, and creativity could match raw power. Together, human ingenuity and Zilari technology created a defense no enemy had expected. Outside the chamber, the sounds of chaos continued, but inside, a new sense of hope took root. The Queen was alive, the rebels were contained, and a bond between human and alien was forming. One built on trust, respect, and survival against impossible odds. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The palace had been betrayed, but humanity's ingenuity had proven itself, and as long as he stayed, the Queen would have a chance, not just to survive, but to inspire her people to fight back. The battle had begun in earnest, and the human was ready. The palace had fallen into chaos, yet the main energy chamber stood as a small island of safety. Elias Trent and Queen Lysera had survived the first wave of the rebel attack, but they both knew it was only temporary. The palace guards had fled, leaving the human and the Queen to face the rebellion together. Elias leaned against a glowing platform, catching his breath. "We can't stay here long," he said. His eyes scanned the energy room, noting the pathways the rebels might take. "They'll figure out our tricks soon enough. We need to move." Queen Lysera observed him closely. Her luminous eyes reflected both admiration and concern. "Captain Trent, I trust you, but you are human. You are not trained for continuous battle like a Zilari warrior. Why do you stay?" Elias smiled faintly, though fatigue tugged at him. "Because someone has to. If I run, the Queen is vulnerable, and if the Queen falls, humanity loses its chance to prove itself. We survive by helping others survive. That's how humans fight." The Queen tilted her head. "Your loyalty. It is unusual. My people value strength, cunning, and obedience. You show courage and adaptability. That is rare." Elias glanced at her, then toward a narrow corridor leading upward. "We can move through the hidden maintenance tunnels. They're less guarded, and we can set more traps along the way." Lysera nodded. "Lead the way." The two moved through the dimly lit corridors, the Queen's delicate measured steps contrasting with Elias's quick human pace. Along the walls, glowing conduits pulsed with alien energy, casting soft light on their path. Every turn, every junction required Elias to think ahead. He knew the rebels would anticipate conventional routes, but humans had an advantage: unpredictability. As they moved, the Queen spoke quietly. "Tell me, Captain, why do humans face danger without hesitation? We Zilari calculate risk, plan meticulously, and avoid unnecessary exposure. Yet you improvise, adapt, and act." Elias considered this as he crouched to avoid a loose energy beam. Humans have learned to survive in unpredictable conditions. We don't always have technology or allies. We rely on instinct, creativity, and courage. Sometimes we act first and think later. It works more often than you'd expect. Lysera studied him with growing respect. "I see now why your kind has become known in the galaxy. You have something beyond skill and strength. You have spirit." Before Elias could respond, a distant rumble shook the corridor. Dust and sparks fell from the ceiling. The rebels had discovered part of their path. "We need to move faster," Elias said. He pointed to a junction ahead. "There's an emergency lift. We can use it to reach the upper observation deck and then escape across the rooftops. Follow my lead." The lift doors were half damaged but functional. Elias pried them open and helped Lysera inside. He pressed a series of alien symbols, trying to recall the instructions he had seen in the control panels earlier. The lift shuddered and began its ascent. You are quick to learn, Lysera said, her voice steady despite the danger. I have to be, Elias replied. In my world, mistakes can be deadly. I've learned to adapt fast or I don't survive. The lift stopped abruptly and sparks flew. Elias cursed under his breath. They must have tampered with the systems. We'll need to climb the final shaft manually. He helped the Queen out of the lift and began climbing. Her movements were graceful but careful. Elias realized that while she was smaller and less physically powerful than him, her mind was sharp and strategic. Together, they were a blend of human improvisation and Zalari intelligence. Halfway up the shaft, a shadow fell across the narrow walls. Rebels had discovered their location. Elias reacted immediately. He grabbed a loose panel and hurled it at the nearest attacker, knocking him off balance. Then he used the walls to swing himself and the Queen upward, keeping them out of reach. They reached the top of the shaft and emerged onto the observation deck. The city sprawled below them, glowing with energy and chaos. Rebel forces moved through the streets, trying to suppress loyal citizens who had begun organizing small resistance pockets. Elias and Lysera paused, catching their breath. We need a safe route across the rooftops, he said. Follow me and don't hesitate, Lysera nodded. I trust you, human. That trust surprised Elias. Most beings underestimated humans or doubted their reliability. For the Queen of the Zalari to rely on him in such a critical moment was an honor and a heavy responsibility. He felt a surge of determination. The rooftops were slick with energy conduits and alien rainfall. Elias led carefully, using human balance and agility to leap across gaps and avoid unstable sections. Lysera followed, her long limbs making the jump seem effortless, though Elias could see her focus and concentration. As they moved, Elias noticed the city's citizens beginning to resist the rebel forces. Humans and aliens alike had fled to higher platforms, where the rebels' mobility was limited. See that, he said. They're rallying. They need leadership, Lysera observed quietly. They see hope, and perhaps they will follow it. Elias smiled faintly. Humans know that hope is stronger than fear sometimes. We fight better when we know someone believes in survival and in each other. Suddenly, a group of rebels appeared on a nearby rooftop, blocking their path. Elias quickly scanned the environment. He grabbed a loose energy conduit and swung it, knocking the first rebel off balance. He pushed Lysera behind a small wall for cover and signaled for her to prepare to move. Using human improvisation, he created diversions, dropping panels and energy conduits to distract the rebels. Then he made a daring leap across the rooftops, grabbing Lysera's hand mid-jump. She followed without hesitation, her trust in him absolute. They landed on a secure platform, catching their breath. Elias looked at her, smiling with a mix of relief and determination. Not bad for a first rooftop escape, huh? Lysera allowed herself a small smile. I am impressed, you are. More capable than I imagined. They continued their journey across the city's heights using secret alleys, maintenance platforms, and narrow bridges. The rebels, frustrated by the unpredictability, began to split their forces, leaving gaps that Elias exploited with human cunning. As night fell, the city below glowed like a river of light. The Queen and the human paused atop a tall spire, catching sight of the rebels' command ship hovering nearby. Elias realized the final confrontation was inevitable. We'll need to strike smart, he said. We can't take them head-on, they're too strong. But if we use the city itself, the platforms, the energy flows, we can create a situation where they can't win. Lysera nodded. Then we fight with strategy, not just strength. Together. Elias looked at her, understanding the gravity of their partnership. Together, he repeated. As they prepared for the next stage, a bond had formed. One built on trust, mutual respect, and the shared goal of survival. The Queen had witnessed human ingenuity, bravery, and adaptability firsthand. Elias had seen the intelligence, composure, and leadership qualities of the Zalari Queen. Together, they were more than a human and an alien ruler. They were a team capable of outsmarting a powerful enemy. From this point onward, Elias knew that victory would require not just courage and quick thinking, but coordination. The rebels underestimated humans, but they would not underestimate this alliance. Every move would be calculated, every decision critical. The city hummed below them, filled with danger, rebellion, and uncertainty. Yet for the first time, Elias felt a surge of hope. Humanity's unpredictability, paired with the Queen's intelligence, could turn the tide of the attack. The night sky over Zalara glowed with energy. The city, once calm and orderly, had become a battlefield. Rebels patrolled the streets, firing at loyal citizens who tried to resist. Above, the rebel command ship hovered like a dark sentinel, its lights scanning for movement. Yet from the rooftops and hidden platforms, Elias Trent and Queen Lysera prepared their next move. Elias crouched behind a high parapet, scanning the city below. "They've split their forces," he said. "They think they control the streets, but they don't know we're here, and they don't know what we're planning." Lysera stood beside him, her luminous eyes reflecting the city's chaos. "Your tactics are unconventional," she said, "but effective. I begin to understand why you humans survive in such dangerous situations." Elias smiled faintly. "We survive by being unpredictable, and tonight that unpredictability will work in our favor." They moved quickly across the rooftops, using the human agility and Queen Lysera's long, graceful strides. Elias had a plan: lure the main rebel forces into the palace's energy hub, where they could manipulate the environment and use the city's technology against them. As they descended toward the energy hub, Elias briefed the Queen. "We'll need to draw them in. I can set traps and barriers, but we also need a decoy. Something they can't ignore." Lysera nodded. "I will create a diversion using the palace's central communication array. It can broadcast a false signal, making them think the Queen is trapped somewhere else." Elias's eyes lit up. "Perfect. That will give us the element of surprise." They moved into the labyrinthine corridors beneath the palace. The energy conduits hummed around them, casting shifting shadows. Elias paused, listening. Rebel forces were moving cautiously, scanning for intruders. "Ready?" he whispered. Lysera nodded. Together, they activated the central array, sending a false distress signal toward the northern palace wing. Almost immediately, the rebels took the bait. A squadron of heavily armed soldiers rushed toward the signal, leaving a gap in the main hub. "Now," Elias said, and they moved into position. The energy hub was massive, a room of glowing conduits and floating platforms suspended over a pit of raw power. Elias quickly examined the layout, noting the points where the rebels could be funneled into traps. His human intuition and improvisation worked perfectly with the Queen's strategic knowledge of the palace's systems. "Follow my lead," Elias said. "We control the environment. We control the fight." The first group of rebels entered the hub, confident and aggressive. Elias triggered a set of barriers, splitting the group and forcing them onto separate platforms. He manipulated the floating walkways, making them tilt unexpectedly. The rebels staggered, some falling back, others struggling to maintain balance. Lysera monitored the energy flows from a control panel. "Increase the gravity in that section," she suggested, "and destabilize the central platform." Elias acted quickly. The rebels were caught off guard as the platform shifted violently, sending a few tumbling into containment zones. The humans' creativity, combined with the Queen's command of the alien technology, was turning the battle in their favor. "Humans fight differently," Lysera said quietly, impressed. "You think beyond rules, beyond structure. That is remarkable." Elias ducked under an energy surge, then redirected a laser blast using a reflective panel. The attackers were skilled, but they had underestimated the humans' ability to use unpredictability as a weapon. One by one, rebels were immobilized, disoriented, or trapped. Suddenly, a larger force approached. The rebel leaders themselves, equipped with advanced armor and enhanced weaponry. Elias realized this was the true test. If they fell here, all hope for the Queen and her city would be lost. "Your Majesty," Elias said, "stand back, this is going to get dangerous." The Queen nodded, her trust in him unwavering. "I will follow your instructions. Lead the way, human." Elias took a deep breath. He needed to act decisively. Using a combination of timing and the palace's energy systems, he created a corridor that would guide the leaders into a narrow section of the hub. The walls pulsed, the platforms shifted, and the environment itself became a weapon. As the rebel leaders advanced, Elias triggered the trap. The floor under one surged upward, knocking a leader off balance. Another was trapped between shifting platforms, struggling to free himself. Elias moved with precision, redirecting energy flows to disable weapons and cut off escape routes. The Queen watched silently, her eyes wide with admiration. "You manipulate this environment as if it were an extension of yourself," she whispered. Elias glanced at her. "Sometimes the mind is the strongest weapon. Technology and numbers can be beaten if you think differently." The final leader lunged toward Elias, weapon raised. The human reacted instinctively, using a combination of agility and quick thinking to dodge and redirect the attack. He pushed a control panel, releasing a burst of energy that temporarily stunned the leader, giving him just enough time to maneuver around and trap the enemy. The rebels' morale began to crumble. Their formations were broken, their leaders incapacitated, and their confidence shattered. From above, the loyal citizens who had begun resisting earlier joined in, using human-inspired guerrilla tactics to exploit the chaos. Elias and Lysera moved through the hub, coordinating attacks and controlling the environment with seamless efficiency. Every step, every adjustment, every calculated risk turned the tide. Humanity's unpredictability, paired with the Queen's knowledge, created a force the rebels could not anticipate. As the last of the rebel forces tried to retreat toward the command ship, Elias triggered the final trap. Energy barriers rose, isolating them. Reflective panels redirected energy blasts harmlessly, confusing and disorienting the attackers. The Queen used the central array to disable their communications, ensuring no reinforcements could be called. The rebels had no choice but to surrender or flee. Many were captured by the returning palace guards, who had regained confidence seeing the human success. Others escaped, but their plan had failed. The palace, though damaged, remained under loyal control. Elias finally allowed himself to breathe. The city outside was still chaotic, but the immediate threat had been neutralized. He looked at the Queen, who approached him with a calm, approving expression. "You have done the impossible," she said. "You turned a hopeless situation into victory. Humanity's ingenuity, it is truly extraordinary." Elias smiled faintly, exhausted but satisfied. "We survived because we adapted, worked together, and never gave up. That's what humans do." Lysera studied him for a moment. "I see now why you stayed when the guards bolted. You are not just brave, you are clever, resourceful, and loyal. That combination, it is rare." Elias nodded. "And I stayed because someone had to. You are not just a leader, you are a symbol. If you fall, everything falls. If you survive, humanity has a chance to prove itself in this galaxy." The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then you have not just protected me, Captain Trent. You have shown my people what courage, intelligence, and determination can achieve. Together, we have turned the tide." Outside the palace, citizens began to cheer. Word of the victory spread quickly, inspiring hope and courage among loyalists. The human and the alien Queen had done what few would have thought possible. They had survived, outsmarted, and defeated a superior enemy. Elias looked toward the horizon. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They will return, or others will rise. But now they know humans are not to be underestimated." Lysera smiled, a rare, warm expression. "And now, I trust you. Not just as a protector, but as a partner. Together, we will face whatever comes next." Elias felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. Humanity had proven itself not by raw strength, but by ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. And the Queen had become more than an ally. She was a friend, a strategic partner, and a symbol of the future they could shape together. The night sky over Zilara no longer seemed threatening. It glowed with promise. The human had faced overwhelming odds and prevailed. The Queen had survived, her people inspired, and together, they had turned a desperate situation into a decisive victory. Tomorrow, the battle might continue. But tonight, humanity's ingenuity had changed the course of history. The first rays of Zalara's twin suns pierced the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the shattered city. The rebellion had been halted, but the battle had left the palace and its surroundings scarred. Smoke drifted from toppled energy spires, and the distant hum of emergency systems filled the air. Yet amidst the chaos, a sense of hope had begun to rise. Elias Trent stood at the edge of a high platform overlooking the city. He scanned the streets below, noting the returning palace guards, the loyal citizens, and the scattered remnants of the rebel forces. The night had been long and exhaustion tugged at his body, but he felt a quiet pride. Together with Queen Lysera, he had survived what many would have called impossible. Lysera approached him, her robes flowing in the morning light. "Captain Trent," she said, her voice calm yet filled with emotion, "you have done more than protect me. You have preserved the palace, saved lives, and inspired hope. Your people, your ingenuity, it has proven itself." Elias smiled faintly. "I only did what was necessary. If we survive, everyone has a chance. That's all any of us can do." The Queen regarded him thoughtfully. Most humans would have fled when the guards bolted. Most would have considered themselves powerless. "You did not. Why?" Elias glanced at the city below. "Because someone has to. Someone has to stand when others run. Someone has to keep hope alive. That's what humans do." Lysera nodded. "Then humanity has earned the respect of my people." Her eyes shone. "And you, Captain Trent, have earned my trust and admiration. You are more than a protector. You are a symbol." Elias allowed himself a moment to absorb her words. Symbols were important in the galaxy. Leaders inspired, warriors defended, and symbols gave hope. He had never imagined that a human could become such a symbol. But here he stood, beside the Queen, who now recognized the value of his courage and intelligence. Suddenly, a commotion arose in the distance. The remaining rebels, desperate and cornered, had gathered in one area of the city. Their leader, a tall alien clad in black armor, raised a hand, signaling a last attempt to regroup. "They're not done yet," Elias said, his eyes narrowing. "We can't just watch them." Lysera placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we end this together. Use your tactics, Captain. Show them what you and your species can do." Elias took a deep breath. He remembered every trap, every diversion, every improvised tactic that had helped them survive the night. He knew the rebels expected a final showdown, but they underestimated humans' ability to adapt on the fly. He turned to Lysera. "Follow my lead. And trust me." The Queen nodded, stepping beside him as they descended to the city streets. Citizens had begun forming barricades, inspired by the humans' courage. Guards who had fled earlier were returning, encouraged by the unexpected human-led victories. Elias smiled faintly. This was exactly what he had hoped. A united front, fueled by ingenuity and determination. The rebel leader advanced toward them, energy weapon raised. Elias didn't hesitate. Using a combination of quick thinking and environmental awareness, he manipulated the streets, pulling down a nearby crane to block the leader's path, while redirecting energy conduits to create temporary barriers. The rebels staggered, confused and trapped by their own assumptions. Lysera, following his instructions, activated palace drones from a nearby rooftop. The drones swooped down, disorienting the rebels and cutting off reinforcements. Elias moved with agility, leading the Queen through gaps in the chaos, ensuring she remained safe while also drawing the rebels into disadvantageous positions. "Human ingenuity," Lysera whispered, a tone of awe in her voice. "It is extraordinary," Elias smiled. "It's just what we do. Survive, adapt, and protect those who cannot defend themselves alone." The final confrontation came at the central plaza of Zalara, a vast, open space surrounded by damaged spires and energy barriers. The rebel leader, furious and desperate, charged toward them. Elias anticipated the move. Using the environment, he forced the leader to stumble over debris, redirecting his energy blasts harmlessly into a reflective panel. Lysera, coordinating the palace drones, trapped the leader between barriers while Elias improvised a path to isolate him further. The human's adaptability, combined with the Queen's precise technological control, proved overwhelming. The rebel leader fell to his knees, defeated not by sheer force but by cleverness, strategy, and the combined strength of human and alien cooperation. Around them, the remaining rebels either surrendered or fled, their morale shattered. Citizens and guards cheered, realizing that the palace and the city had survived. Humanity had shown that courage and creativity could rival numbers and technology. Elias allowed himself a deep breath, exhaustion and relief washing over him. Lysera approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than survive, Captain Trent. You have inspired my people. You have changed the course of this city, and perhaps the galaxy itself." Elias looked out over the recovering city. "We all did this together. Humans, Zalari, and citizens who refused to give in to fear. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and stayed when others ran." The Queen's eyes glowed softly. "You stayed human. That is what made the difference. And now, I offer you something few outsiders ever receive. An alliance, not just with me, but with my people. Humanity's bravery, ingenuity, and heart have earned it a place in Zalara's future." Elias felt a surge of pride. For so long, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as fragile or unremarkable. Yet here, on this distant planet, his species had proven itself. Not through domination or force, but through courage, intelligence, and loyalty. The city began to rebuild, its people inspired by what they had witnessed. Guards returned, now confident that leadership and bravery could overcome treachery. Citizens organized defenses and repairs, knowing that a human had stood beside their queen when all others had fled. Lysera and Elias walked together through the palace halls, once chaotic and damaged, now slowly returning to order. The Queen spoke quietly. "Captain Trent, your people have much to teach us, and I believe we have much to teach them. Together we can create something stronger, wiser, and more united than either of our species could achieve alone." Elias nodded. "That's the best outcome I could hope for. Humans don't just survive, we help others survive, and we grow stronger together." As the twin suns rose fully above the city, casting their warm light across the palace, Elias felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had faced impossible odds, protected a powerful ruler, and proven that humanity could stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The Queen turned to him, her expression calm and resolute. "Captain Trent, when the guards bolted, you stayed. That choice has made all the difference, and now together we can face the future." Elias smiled. "Together," he echoed. And so the city of Zalara began a new day, marked not by fear or betrayal, but by courage, ingenuity, and unity. Humanity had triumphed not through domination, but through heart, mind, and spirit. And Elias Trent, the human who stayed when all others fled, became a symbol of hope for the Queen, her people, and the galaxy beyond. The future was uncertain as it always was, but now it was a future they would face together, human and Zalari, side by side, ready for whatever challenges awaited.